every day b'eifin prati for that day. V'nechak b'charkach li. The seder it's nimshach from the klal to the prat. It's first it's nimshach b'eifin klali, the klal is achayis, nimshach Rosh then it's nechak charkach li beis Rosh Chodashim. Hachodesh lamed yom. So what do we see from here? The Rosh Hashanah is the Reish. Reish b'rishon l'chochot shana. V'lo never Rosh Chodesh Rosh Chodashim. The Shaykh is to sagen, the Pasuk calls also Rosh Chodesh and Reish Chodashim. If it was just the beginning, you see Apinikol Pashas that Rosh Hashanah means the beginning of a certain cycle. So then you can say there's Kamer Rosh Hashanah. Like Gemara says, Rabbar Rosh Hashanah means. It's not a Shaila. You have Legabe Din Maestris. The beginning of the cycle is this the Chodesh Elul. Legabe Malachim is a different. The cycle of the year starts from a different time. It's Nishkan Shaila. Like Chassidus, that Rosh Hashanah means that the Chayis, that is the Reish for the whole year. That the Chayis, which is Nimshach whole year, the Reish of this Chayis is Nimshach Rosh Hashanah, and then the whole year is only that this Chayis. Kol is a chayis. It's Nimshach Prati every day. So how could you have two heads? If the kol is a chayis is Nimshach Rosh Hashanah, so then Rosh Chodesh Nisan is a prat. There can't be two Roshim. I mean, when is the kol is a chayis Nimshach? So if the kol is a chayis is Nimshach for the whole year, Rosh Hashanah, we're talking about the whole year. Hashanah is not the kol is a chayis for 6 months. It's the Rosh Hashanah for the whole year. So the kol is a chayis. The klal of everything is Nimshach Rosh Hashanah. It's not shayach that there should be another klal Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Then this is not a klal. Then Rosh Chodesh Nisan is kind of everything, and Rosh Hashanah is a prat in Nisan. So we can say tzvei. That's the shayla. So that's the shayla. Loma nemer Rosh Chodesh Nisan Rosh Chodashim. Yeah. So he answers like this. So the Teres as the Chassidus brings this. The be'etzim there's two types of chayis as Nimshach Levul. The truth is the Rosh Hashanah Rosh Chodesh Tishri is Rosh Hashanah. It's like the kol is a chayis for the entire year. Kernel also Nisan is Nimshach Rosh Hashanah Rosh Chodesh Tishri. The Nachifra das is ein sort chayis, which is Nimshach the entire year, and the klal is Nimshach Rosh Hashanah. The Nachifra not zweiter sort chayis, that the whole year is mekabel. The whole fourth is 12 Chodashim. A whole another chayis, the whole year is mekabel, and the reish for that other chayis is a Chodesh Nisan. The klal for this is two different sidrei chayis. Exactly what's this? To find does hit to read. Yeah, that's he says. I'm just going. I'm going through the Maimer as I don't know what the Elam knows, what the Elam doesn't. I'm just with a statue in the middle. V'hine b'akei the kos the base fani mechelam anulei that dula saber. That's the ufta of that game. It's a pashas hadvar, and that we know. It says in Psukim ki eresh shamecha mastes beisecha su'u marim enechem rumi barei. I mean, there's kind of Psukim that show that there could be a dias alakus from Velt. Shas hayid is achmuzbeinin in different yadim in Velt. You could know that yesh balabayis the birazu. Like the ki eresh shamecha mastes beisecha yirech yicham asher kenantu. The person who's beinin in the Seder of the world, for Shidna Zachan, that there's different hisbonos, that if a person is going to be Mesim Alev, different in Yanan that he sees in Vel, let's see how everything works together, or other things, the fact that you have every Nivras Morka from Dal Yisayis, that's right, there's a Davar HaMarkiv, it's a different Echachas that is brought in Svarim, that if you're in the Sidra Elam, Sidra Teva, you could come to the Yedira, the Yesh Balabayis Lebirazu, Asfana Gotos, or Bashaf in the Welt. That's without that Kedah. The Kedah Tutuf, that are Shteit Vardim, Yechedom Anolei, that Dula Saber. Pashas Advardim, what type of musik you have the Eibush of being Mizbenin in the Mitzvah Sa'ila? You have every single nivra is mugbal. You don't see, bleak vol and veld. Every nivra is a davar prat and a davar mugbal. Shemayim, be'eretz, b'chav, mazal, all prat is taking mugbal to the things. So that you could from being Mizbenin, you can see that there's someone that created everything. But you can't see it, but the Eibush is bleak vol, the fact that the Eibush ain't safe, that's not expressed in the world. The only thing you're going to see is that there's a creator. So the fact that the Eibush is a creator, that you can see for the fact from different things with Rayas, that the Eibush created the world and runs the world for Shidna Zah. But the fact that the Eibush ain't safe betachlis is bleak vol. That's something which you don't see the pashas. You don't see that involved. So that's a chiddush of the Akedah. That even the Eibush is godless. It means the Eibush is bleak vol. This ain't safe, which is l'chur is something which is the velt is the gvul. The Eibush is gedula. L'chur is something which gets a chishar is velt. Every single day, there's a certain structure of the system of teva that's on Haget Midas that was never mishtana. There's no shini and there's no hefsek. Means the fact that the Seder Abri is that the sun, like you learn in the Rambam, that the sun has the whole Seder Mahalchi Galgalim. And the Ram gives the Cheshvan is because the Seder Sibuv of the sun and the moon and all the Galgalim there, they have a Seder Kavua that never changes. The Ram gives the Seder exactly how it works. There's no changes. You can predict from the beginning. There's a Seder of how the Shemesh and the Reich are mislated, the Galgal Elam, and there's no Shini. There's no Shini and there's no Hefsik in that Hanhagas Elam. The Shemesh every single day and every single year has its cycle. How the Shemesh is Seir Sabriya, and Al Derech the Gidra Tev, winter, summer. The Sidri Ha'olam, the Sidri Tev are the Hanhagas Tmidim, which was never a shinin. It was never like 1,000 years ago. The sun used to travel slower around the world, and now the sun travels faster. The same exact Mehirus and system, the way the Shemesh and the way the Yerech worked 5,000 years ago, exactly the same way they're today also. So the Anhaga Tmidis, Shemisnaik Tomid, the Anhaga Sabriya is Ba'efen Echad B'li Shinui, Me'oz Me'olam, B'li Shinui B'li Hefse. So Adem sagt in Itzchai, in Bezen Niker Keach Ha'insa. In them is Niker, the fact that the Eivish is Blikvol. We'll see, he's going to explain why. Those are the Zachalim. So Stama say the fact that Eivish, just an Eivish which a Keach, Mugbal, you can't come to understand the fact that the Nivel, that the Seder, that Taluchas Ha'elam is Na'efen Tmidi B'li Shinui. Oh, he starts being going through the plot. Come here, Hashem Shayireh, Fakechov, V'chol HaGagal. So B'sibuvam HaTmidi, Shemesabev Im Tamid Mizrach L'Mayrav, and so it was never as man that Mitamol they went from Mayrav to Mizrach, or they started going from Saf to Dor. The same exact Sibuv is B'efen Tmidi. Ve'enim Meshanu Estafkidim, Ubli Hefsek, it was never a stop. Never for a second took a break from being... so what's the right that it's Ein Sof? Maybe they're very, very powerful and they could continuously raise the Charum. Why is there a right that it's Ein Sof? So that's Hit to Namaz. He brings big story. It's not Maidach, he just says the Gufini. The Rashab is not asking to bring this in. He wants to bring God that there's two types of Chayis, which is Hemshech about. But he brings this Akeda Zagdam. The Mitzad Atzmon, Mitzad the Nivra itself, Mitzad the Shemesh Yerech itself, Me'ach Hashem Bali Gvul. First, the Shemesh, the push of the Guf. The Guf of the Shemesh is a limited body. It's a very massive body, but it's a limited body. It's not Blikvul. The Shemesh is Guf. The Alter brings the Guf Samazayim Pam and Kater Oris. There's a certain Gvul to how big the Guf of the Shemesh is. So, since if the Shemesh's Guf is Gvul, so the Klal is that the Chayis HaMalubish by Guf also has to be a Chayis Mugbal. Now, the Klal is that Adavar Mugbal HaYisarachli is Hemshech L'Zibuvam. If the Chayis, the Kaya, the energy that the Shemesh has, would be only a limited energy, he wouldn't be able to have this in of Anhaga Tmidis B'li, because the Tchun of Adavar HaMugbal is that there must be a Hemshech to Sibuv. The Chol Bagvul Arei Mishtan. Yeah, the Musik of Chol Bagvul Arei Mishtan is much more easier to understand because that's the Chshuz always brings Rabbeinu B'chaya, last week's parasha. The Evisher told Adam Arishan that B'yem Achol Chilmenu Meis Thomas. The day you eat from Eitz Adas, that's the start. You're going to die. So the Shaila is the Peli ate from Eitz Adas and there's nicht gestorben yet. He lived quite Gat Arichas Yamim, Adam Arishan. So what's the Yem Achol Chamenu Meis Thomas? So the B'chai explains the truth is Yem Achol Chamenu Meis Thomas because Kolzman didn't think Eitz Adas he would have lived forever. So then what they left to Afebi. The minute it was Nikdas Misal Adam Arishan. So now there's a limit to how long he's going to live. So let's say he ate Eitz Adas, now he has 929 whatever it was time to live. Now every single second that he's alive, the Misa already starts from the beginning that he's born. Because why does a person die at 120? Pstam is the same strength, 120 mitamoli segetavek. Because the person l'chatchil is a limited being. This guf could last for 120 years. Once the guf lived a day, so now how long can this guf last? 119 years, and another year, 118 years, until it gets weaker and weaker and weaker until it's sever taste. So davar mugbal, the hefsek doesn't start when he finishes. The hefsek starts from the beginning. You have a certain amount of power of how much I have. The minute I use a little bit of my power, I use some. And now I have less. Now I use more, I have less. So that's Machad. So Shinui, why is there Shinui? L'chatchila, when the Shemesh started, it was a much stronger than today. The Shemesh started 5,000 years. If it had the limited amount of chayis, of how long, let's say it's able to last for 6,000 years, so it already used that a major amount. So there should have been a Shinui. Then when it started being misleaded, was a davar chazak v'yesef. Now the guf Hashem should have been shvacher, and its koyach should have been weaker, and there's no shinui. A person, you can't stay the same energy from when you're born to 120 years old because there's shinui the entire time. Because you're able to live, because you have a limited amount of time you're able to live. The minute you lived a certain amount, you already used that part of it. So there's shinui. Now you have less amount of time. I'm saying in their numbers, but the word is shinui. A person gets old, gets young, there's shinui because there's constant using out of the chayis. And that's why it's Mischalish of Kosa. The Shemesh, the same fresh guf the Shemesh had 100 years today, the Shemesh has today, and the same amount of energy it has today, the same Chayis Mamash. And as a person has to, by definition, should have been a hefsek because the Shemesh is able to, let's say it would be a Chayis Mukul, able to surround the world 6,000 years. But look, after 6,000 years, it loses its energy. So when it, let's say, did a sequel, The Galgal hat Shiur dort hat gedreht the ganze Galgal for 1,000 years. So that energy was used already. The chayes that it's using now is a new chayes already. It would be that's already. So there's a hefsek. A person, let's say, you lived one day. The life that you live today, tomorrow the life that you live is already a new kiyum. It's not the same life as yesterday. Yesterday's life was used up. If it's a chayes mukbo, so there's by definition a hefsek to the chayes, because every little that you use is eizgenus and it's nichla. He says, I'm just saying the nekuda is that if we coil the seder on Hachodesh Shemesh is a sip of tmidi, and there's never a shchlishus in the shinui. The zel bazach has to be that this koyach is blikvo. Because if this koyach was mugbo, that means one day it's going to end. That means there's a certain amount of energy that's there. A certain amount that had to be shinui the entire time. That's what he says. Elamai, we never used out any koyach. Why didn't we use it? Because it's blikvo. It's not a davar mugbo b'chal. That's the one thing. So here we see kenikar is a koyach eitzah. So that's right there till now. That's what the Rebbe Rashab brings from the Hachodesh, the Gabe, the Shemesh V'Yerech, always surrounding the world. There's an Hoget Midis. Now that the Rebbe Rashab is Meisif, the Chassidus brings us a lot. K'meke not only from the Sib of Tmidi of the Shemesh V'Yerech. See the Sib of Tmidi of the Mareches Hayel. K'meke is also B'cholos HaNefrim. The door opens and closes in the beginning of the year. Then it's a Herzachol Shpeter. Good. K'mekim Chos HaNefroim Mitzvah Shemai Mitzvah. It's also when they get the Chos HaNefroim. Oh, so he says not only gets Mitzvah. We can see this with Chos HaNefroim. Where? Stai Mitzvah Shemai, Stai Mitzvah. So who's that with us? First of all, that you see that shit. That you see Keich Insaf. Das steht weiter about. Wie das steht in der Kette. Das bringt er von anderen Plätzen. Von Chassidus Shem, this thing. The Kette brings us the Sib of Tmidi of the Shemesh V'Yerech. But here he has it. Not only the Shemesh V'Yerech and the Sib of Tmidi. A regular person, you can see even B'min Anushi. Where do you see? So first of all, you see the Shein Kayam B'min U'B'ish. The Shemesh L'Mashal, so the Shemesh Guf has no Kilayim. The Guf has Shemesh. Till now you're speaking about to get to the Sib of the Shemesh. Others, the Shemesh Guf has Kayam B'Ish, or the sky is Kayam B'Ish. The Galgalim are Kayam B'Ish. That person never got weaker. The Guf never got weaker. Besides for the Sib. And others, when they get the Tzvah Ardes, every single Nivra is Kayam B'Min. The Sug, there's no Kilayim in the Mina, in the Kayach HaLeida, you see in of Ein Sof. It's not the pshat that today it was the Kayach HaLeida of a person is weaker than the Kayach HaLeida 1,000 years ago. The Kayach HaLeida is the same starkheit. The Min HaAdam is never going to be this bottom. It's not that the Kayach HaLeida got weaker. So the Chor, if it was the Kayach Mugbol, a person is Gvul. If a person is Gvul, the Chayes that he has is also Gvul. So if the Chayes that he has is also Gvul, so how could there be an unlimited Indian in the person? The fact that a person is able to be married enough, and this person can be married again, it's Blik Gvul. And the chveis from this garden, which is in the Paris, we matzmiach more Paris and more Paris and more Paris. And there's no gvul to the Hachodesh. If the apple is limited, the chayes mugbol, so then the ability for it to continue should have been limited. And the pale is not. It's kayam b'min. There's no min that is vatal. So maybe that's in the blikvul. Kenikar is a kayach einsa. Question come on. Okay, there is my but that's the Hachodesh advar. That if it would be mugbol, what gedarf sein a hefsek in the nivra? That's the purpose. See, the klal is that a nivra mugbo only can contain a chayis mugbo, because if it's the chayis blikvos is not a nivra mugbo, is not a klita chayis. If the chayis is mugbo, so how does it have an Indian? How does it promote the Indian that's ein seif? The kiyim b'min is in of ein seif. The keich havlad that never got weaker. So that's a lie that you see from your keich ein seif. That's state. So sometimes the Rashal Kapan brings three nekudas you see keich ein seif. Saying that Hoget Midis that the shemesh never gets weak. The sib of tmidi of the shemesh was never an even that it's gewan schwacher or needs to take a break. As in the same koyach that it had there when it started 5,000 years ago, the same koyach is being masabel today. That's in the blik. The zweite zach is that kayam beish and kayam b'min. Those are. So upon him, so that's when you see of ein sof from the Eibush that involved. That's ein sof that kid is. That's ein. The zweite zach sagt the Rabbi is. Where is the nikar about the Keich Ein Sof? Hachodesh shalamayla mei hateva. From the fact that the Eibush there does things shalei apiteva. K'may v'nes etzias mitzrayim v'kriyas yamsuf. K'hai gavna. Yes, so it's kriyas yamsuf. Says mitzrayim ke'ein ever apiteva ein ever dechol levrech misham. There's the makis. There's it's kriyas yamsuf. K'hai gavna. That shiddu marachas a bit lateva. So apiteva mayim cannot stand firm. The fact that Mayim cannot stand is not because the reason why the Teva Mayim is that it can't stand that's connected to the tchunis. Mayim is azam esar zach, and mitzad the tchunis it flows. That's because the sheidish hamayim, and say that the shtarshulis is the mitzad the sheidish hamayim. Mayim is azam esar zach, which doesn't stand for me. The fact that mayim begashmis it has a certain tchuna is because mayim b'sharshim has a certain tchuna. And the say that Abriyam in Peri v'sharshem mitzad the makri Abriyam mitzad in Peri v'sharshem mayim has the agbala that it can't flow. The fact that Hemshech took what made was scary sounds, took water and made it stand firmly, because Hemshech is not limited in the Hagbalas of it. Because Hemshech is not limited in any rules. Mitzad Sidri Abriyam, mitzad the Klolim, mitzad Chukei Habriya, mayim has to flow. The fact that Hemshech was mayim with mayim, and mayim stood firm. That's right. There's not mukbal in Hagbalas. He's not mukbal in the system. According to the system, mayim has to flow. And there he adds it here. Bezenik Gados Haber be Yesem not to that. So first of all, we're not going to hear it's Mizet is Begoli. The mayim is you see a nest. You can't shator someone who meinen because the shemesh is a powerful thing. You know for sure that it's the Eibush is himself. But also another thing is benegeh also the type of gilui. Benegeh tanogas hateva you don't see the Ein Sof. It's that the nivra hamukbal is constant. You don't see that. You don't see blik vol the way it's b'fnei atzmei. You see that the nivra, which is mukbal, has a takeif which doesn't end. Mashenkin and the Inna Van you see that the Eibush is not limited in Agbalas. It's not Agbalas. You can take water and make it stand firm. You don't see a tnua blikvul in itself. So what's that Akeda? So the Akeda says here that there's two efanim where the fact that you know b'chal it is a lukus, the fact that from him is better in yon elam. Can b'chal visnas the get b'chkai. That's not the chesed Akeda that we know from Kam Psukim that you could see su'umar merechim numi bareila. Here it is. The Akeda adds that you could be it's nicker gdulas elukus from Bel. It's elukus. And the two efanim. One efan is Nanagat Midis, and the zweite Zach is in the Nanagat Shalom Mederchata. So the Rashab says, the Maskana is going to be that these two Hamshachis, one of them is Tishrei, one of them is Nisi. That's it. But before then, we have to understand first, he wants to bring out, in order to say that the two Rosh Hachodesh, Tishrei and Nisi, and one of them is the Hamshach of the Chayis, of the Ein Sof of which is Melubish and Teva, of Gvul, Nanagat Midis. And the second one is the Nanagat Nisis, you have to first explain that it's two separate Hamshachis. If there's one Hamshach of Ein Sof, of Blikvul, but expresses itself in two ways, so then if one of when is the Hamshach of Ein Sof Nimshach? If it's Nimshach Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, then you don't need Rosh Hashanah, you don't need Nisan. And if it's Nimshach Nisan, you don't need Tishrei. So first he wants to be a matin that these two, that the Akeda says, these two a fan of Gilead Ein Sof and Vel, does not stand. It's one Hamshach of Ein Sof that expresses itself in two ways. It's two different Hamshachas. Sveba Zundere in Yonim and Ein Sof. It's not the same Hamshachas Ein Sof, which is just expressed in two ways. It's two different Hamshachas mitzad Ein Sof. That's what he says. And that's them to verstehen that the Chodesh Tishrei is Nimshach Hamshacha, the first union of Ein Sof connected to Teva, and the second, and Nisis is Chodesh Nisis. So Lohav and Sheirish in based on Yosana. What's the Sheirish? Once we get there's two separate Sharash. Like I said before, it's not the pshat that it's one Ein Sof, and just that it expressed itself l'poyer in two ways. In the Sheirish, it's Sveba Zunder Inyanim and Blikvul. In Ein Sof, there's two Inyanim. There's one Inyan that Velt is Gvul, and Velt brings out different Tchunis, Mukbalas that the Eibush has. The Eibush could create different Inyanim Kaviyachol in Shiur. Then there's a biti of the Eibush as Blikvul and Velt. We have two opposite ways of the expression of Blikvul. One Eifen is that the Blikvul is not Mevatel the Gvul. Fakir, the Blikvul is Nizvata, and then that the Gvul has the Inyan Tmidi, Inyan Nitzvi. And it then brings the Chodesh Ein Sof. Another Eifen of Ein Sof is expressed in the fact that the Gvul werd bottle. That's versteht man besser. With Nes, and Nagel is Shalom Mederech Hateva. So the Gvul is a Shalei Be'erech to Gvul. So B'shas Gvul is Meir, the Gvul werd is battle. But in the first Eifen, the Gvul doesn't become Nizvata. Fakert, the Gvul is Gale, and then that the Gvul has a takeif Tmidi. So the Rebbe it's two separate Inyanim in Ein Sof. There's one Inyan in Ein Sof, the Mitzad Ein Sof. He's not mevatel gvul. Fakert mitzad Ein Sof. There's a takeif to gvul, takeif to gvul. There's another Indian Ein Sof that's mevatel gvul, and that's Nisgal. But it's two separate sharoshim. It's not stam two separate anhages. It's mushim two separate. So to verstehen the sheirish these two anhages that vermacht them seine ganze Indian. But these two, this Indian, the sheirish Indian based on anhages anal, that's one of the in Yonim Ikrim of this Hemshech, Hachodesh and Yelach, is to bring out that l'chatchila mitzad Ein Sof. There's two inyanim kaviyachol Ein Sof, which is expressed in these two hamshachas of the Hanhaget Tmidis, which the Ein Sof is nisbated that the Gvul is has to take of Nitzchi and bittul marach satat. He doesn't do that. But before that, he goes through a whole. He's hipped on a 9 there Indian until the second Maimer, until the end of this Maimer, we're going to go back to this Indian a little bit. But that's going to be one of the main inyanim of the Hemshech. Yeah, it's a verstandig the Indian. Okay, let me get back to the share of these two anhagas are lahak the machines were okay, it brings a kiss in my morning before was that fear that Fidiri said the pasuk says Ner Avai Nishma Sodom. There's different Yonim Chassidus what the dimin between Ner to Neshama. So before the Maimorim brings that what's the dimin that the Neshama is in there? Kamaya Ner that's always in a matter of Ratzi B'Shuv. She'el of a year Tamid. It's never as a Menucha and one cup. It's always an Eifon of Ratzi B'Shuv Eil of a year. There's the Neshama is also Tamid from Ratzi B'Shuv. That's the answer I said that. The Nach Zakta Darton before the Maimorim earlier that this in it there should be that the Yid should have a Tunu of Ratzi B'Shuv. Nizbar, she has says Eris no Maila, two in Yadam is Nizbar. That B'chdei that a Yid should have Ratzi B'Shuv, and one in is there's a Eris no Maila. The Eibush has Me'eder a Yid. The Eibush has Me'eder a Yid is he should have a Ratzi Talakus, and there also the Eibush gives a Siyu and no Maila that a Yid should be in a Eifon of Shuv. That's one. And then he says also, but the Iker, in order for a person to be Emes have Ratzi B'Shuv and Emes Eifon, he has to have Dafkit Ravid B'Kei Chatzmi, not Prumo Maila. That's it. In Nizbar, she has two in Yadam. Yesh has his Eris no Maila. Shemeir is Sa'adam leads with Ratzi B'Shuv. The Eibush has Meir. Omnam Ikar Ratzi B'Shuv B'Kei Chatzmi V'Yasidav. He's made earlier that there's only a Siyu at his Aveda and it only comes to Aveda. I shouldn't have that he speaks before. But the Ikar Ratzi B'Shuv is B'Kei Chatzmi. I mentioned that for Lein Haravim. B'Kei Chatzmi V'Yasidav. Shemisayes the Harav leads with his Abu Chukalalukus. That's the Ratzi. He should have an Abu Chukalalukus. And even the Hechsta Dargas and Amma. Even Abu Rabba. Which Abu Rabba is Dafke through Hemshech Maila, but it's but Dafka that Tircha Be'egiv Aved the premise the Meich believe to Ganesh Vamos. So Rebbe Shach said before even Dargas and Abbas Hashem that a person said his own Aved Kenish the Greichen Ahimsu Shalei Be'erech, but after became the Eibush is only Mamshech Maila Abu Rabba only after a person heard of it to the maximum of his cases. Akbar says Meirich earlier that even though there's a serious Maila, but the Iker that Chamen Shalin heard of it. Vashuv Ugamki Mekei Chatzim. Vaydeser Meir Ratzi. Kamitis Hashuv Mitzad Esem Ansham Mitzad Abitul B'Shiflus Chul. מצד הקבוס המערך שמיים שלו, משמזל מבחין השוב, וקבוס המערך שמיים כחץ וגיגסי משמש ברדו. That's his Meirich Barucha. So what's the code that the Rebbe wants to bring for everything that we spoke about before? That you see that it's an Indian, Aveda B'Kei Chatzim is an Indian Ikri. Even though there's a Nyan of Hashem that a person can't achieve on his own. Has to come Dafka Mamayla, but in order to be Zeichet in Nyan Mamayla, you have to have Dafka Aveda B'Kei Chatzim. Only after you did the maximum people that can't start of him, then it's Hemshech Mamayla, the Avi Yira Mamayla. And certain Yadim, the main Yira of Hashem, which is Shuv, says Ratzi is only Aham. Shuv is the Matar. And Shuv is Dafka B'Kei Chatzim. Ratzi, you can have Avi Yira, which comes Mamayla. Also that, you need to have Dafka your own Aveda. But Shuv, which is the Mataris Aveda, that's Dafka through Aveda Sa'adam. So you see that Aveda Sa'adam, that if the person does the Kavanah Sa'abriya was, I mentioned Alein Haravim. And Alein Peil Zambezir, Aviyira and Kabbalah Samach Shamayim, it shouldn't be given to Momayla. So that's correct. L'havim it tastes beer costing the now. Lo mitzvah Aved B'Kei Chatzmi. Why is it so negative? As I mentioned, Alein at Eis Haravim by Zich, his Kabbalah Samach Shamayim, his Aviyira. Why can't they be a little bit nice and give us a little boost, a little Aviyira, a bissel Kabbalah? What's happening after Alein out Eis Haravim? That's the shayla. Ma wa Mayla b'zeh. Ma wa Mayla b'zeh. Ba'alei Aviyira b'ayim Mayla b'mayla madrega harbeis. When kim teimatzach li is dafka v'edei B'Kei Chatzim ma yisra v'edei. So the Rebbe Shabbat doesn't come to explain. There's different Yurim Chassidus if you want. If you get everything Mayla, what's the one we want to test the person? But the Rebbe wants to bring out here that there's a Mayla. The Indian Aviyira is not just to test out a person. In order for you to have the emissary skashas the lakus is dafka through Aviyira B'Kei Chatzim. There's a Mayla. Aviyira comes a Mayla. A person cannot achieve the ultimate kashrus, the ultimate aviyira through aviyira which comes after Mamayla. The main yisrin being played with the Eibush wants to develop is dafka through Aviyira B'Kei Chatzim. That's he's going to explain. Ma wa yisrin b'aviyira, ma wa Mayla b'aviyira. That's get him. Ma wa yisrin b'aviyira. That's he's going to explain. Ve'inin hu didn't eksiv. This prat the Mayla the yisrin Aviyira B'Kei Chatzim is also it's not mavur mamish mefurish in the chelik of the Hemshech that we're going to learn now. The Hachodesh vayelech and it's not like he's Mevair, he goes back to this point to extend a bit of later in the Hemshech. Based on what he's Mevair and these Hemshech HaMaimorim, of this group of Maimorim, but they get to the Maila of his Havas HaYesh, there's none that he's Mevair here. So, Medem to verstehen the Hemshech HaMaimorim later, he explains in Tikku later Maimorim, the Maila of Edel B'Kei Chatzmi. That one, okay, much better. The pasuk says, in the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha. Yeah, famous Shiloh. So after the rest of the time, the Mashim that Sholei Avad Ein Rosh says the pasuk where it says before B'Shav Tabris Misadik LaRosh. So here the Sholei Avad the pasuk is not repeating itself. That means that there's two. There's tzaddik. There's difference in a tzaddik and a Rosh. Then there is within tzaddikim itself an Eivid Elikim and a Sholei Avad. Mashma Sholei Avad Ein Rosh. So he doesn't serve the Eivid. He's not a Rosh. Kaim mitzvahs Ein Eivid Chas Hashem Alei Yisrael. Umikonikim Ein Eivid Elikim Klal. Is that better? Actually, Mekan Kol mitzvahs. V'vadish Mekan Avir. You can say a Pashto Zeh. He does all the mitzvahs. But he does everything because he wants to get a good Elam Haba. Tut Alf Farzich. So he's not serving the Eibishter, he's serving himself. He does everything right. He's not a Rasha. Tut Alf good. But the Rosh Hashanah says there's a mitzvah. One of the mitzvahs is Avahaftas Shem Lekecha. And the Teichen mitzvah is that a person should do mitzvahs mitzad Ava. That's so if he's Mekayim Kolim Bevadi, Yesh Begam Ken Ava Yira. Shoaz Bafki Kim Mitzvahs Kedavai. If not, is there Thaltam in mitzvahs, Thaltam is ein Tzidkes. If he's doing mitzvahs all the sake of for his own sake, that he's not hates Mishkin Tzadi. Because of his Yechikara Sholeva, what's the Sholeva? The Staltanibak says in Tanya, there's two Ifanim in Beinani. There's a Beinani that has the heart of a Beinani, doesn't have the heart of it. The Rebbe Shak is a different beer. That's it. Initially, the Alter was in Tanya in Perek Tezvav, the difference between being Misagia Lemaila Mergilusay, or a Beinani which has to have a Mocham, or a Beinani that's a Master of the Wili B'Tiv. It's a Master the Rebbe Shak is a different beer. Why this Tzaddik, which has Avayir and Allah Milas, how it became a Konig in Leah about it? Himmlish getting the neighbors. Why not? He says like this. So the way someone said, the Rebbe Shab touches here, Sholeh Avad means he's not the Bechina of Evet. He's the Bechina of Ben. Let's get into that. That's what he touches. So the Tzaddik and the Rosh, then there's the Yiddish is Bechinas Ben to the Eibishter, and a Yiddish is the Bechina of Evet. So Sholeh Avad, the Yiddish is Bechinas Ben. Let's get into that. Then you do that there's two Bechinas, then you get Yiddish, Yesh Bechinas Ben, Yiddish is the Bechina of a Ben to the Eibishter, and Bechinas Evet. Who's that? L'famim mishkram nesham Yisrael b'shem banim. L'famim b'shem avadim. Yidden are called amol banim amol avadim. Why they call them amol banim and amol avadim? Because there's two inyanim in Yidden. There's one Yidden, the Yidden are banim lamakim. There's another Yidden, the Yidden are avadim to the Eibishter. Because the b'dim b'chei Yisrael banim atam la'elekechem. And the noch steht uchsiv Shema Yaakov Avdi Atir Avdi Yaakov Klibin Yisrael avadim avadi. So this is the thing when you get to whole class. So every Yid, there's two inyanim in every single Yid. One Yidden that is a ben to the Eibishter, Klibin Yisrael avadim, or the b'dim b'chei Yisrael is not only going on Chashid Get a Valley. Every Yid has two inyanim. One Yid that Yid is a ben to the Eibishter. Another Yid is that every single Yid has that he's a B'chinas Evet HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A lot of times in Mamar we say that the B'china of Torah has the limit of Torah has to do with the B'china of Ben of the Yid, and Kei Mitzvahs is connected to the B'china of Evet of a Yid. Shouldn't be Yid. That's it. Every Yid has these two inyanim of Ben and Evet. It's Einzah. Prati is in base meaning neshamas. The Prati is here says there are certain neshamas that Ikar inyanim is Ben. And the are neshamas Ikar inyanim is Evet. Yes, neshamas shekaram banim, neshamas shekaram avad. Ukamaymer im kibanim im kavad. It sounds like im kibanim kavadim. That's if we're a banim, then the Eibishter should be kafakach. And if we're a vadim, but the Chagavzak that we're both. Steht doch früher that side banim and side. Every yid is called banim atom v'adikeh. Every yid is avadahim. V'zak im kibanim im kavadim. So because there's whether we're banim, whether we're avadim, that means that some neshamas are b'chinas ben, and some neshamas are b'chinas avad. That's the okay.
You see that every yid is both.
The pasuk talks when it gets alman, b'di b'chei Yisrael, that's against gewisse Yidden. B'di b'chei Yisrael speaking about certain. That thing now, banim atam v'adikeh must speaking to the whole Klal Yisrael. Huh?
The sort, the time.
Banim atam v'adikeh. That means the Navi sagt the ganze Klal Yisrael. Banim atam v'adikeh. B'di b'chei Yisrael when it gets Yisrael, when it gets alman.
He doesn't say that.
But even Yisrael Avadim speaking when you get only the Eibishter said that when you get to certain Yidden, every Yid has the Isser to Shtari Kedim. I'm saying so the pasuk that he gets alman.
He feels those.
Well, Prat is there good. That's reason why it brings from Kabbalah. Oh, now so Akapanim, there's two inyanim in every Yid, but the Ikar said that it's that there's the Shamas are the Bechina of Banim, and the Shamas is the Bechina Avadim. Now, what's the Chiluk Tishin Banim mit Avadim? So here he goes through a gewisser Seder, wie the Rebbe Shabbos and Vardos. He starts like this. What's the difference between Bepashas Advarim between a Ben and a Evet? The simple Advarim between the difference between a Ben and a Evet. The son is not a stranger than the father. He's from the same family, from the same mahus. He's an extension of the father. He comes from the father, and he's from the same mahus as the father. That's the son. Mashek and Evet is a stranger, a zweiter mensch. He's not related to the father. He was machle to devote himself to the father, to dedicate himself. But he's a zweiter mensch. So what do you say to the Shamas which are B'chinas Ben and Shamas which are B'chinas Avadim? The Pash the beer. Let's get to the Zagan gleich. Of course, everything about Avadim, wie sie bis Chaim b'Seif, the Evet, Hainu B'chinas Naran, the Biyah. Never Shuach Hashem Abi. What's the difference? There's Atzilis and there's Biyah. Atzilus, what's the difference between Atzilus and Bia in Pashtus? Bia is Nivra. The Eibusha created a Nivra. It's not his extension. The Eibusha created something. Mashiach and Atzilus is not the Eibusha created the world outside of him. Atzilus is the Gile of the Eibusha's Keiches Kaviyah. The Eibusha's Chachmas is Gal in Atzilus. The Eibusha's Midas is Chesed is Gal in Atzilus. Atzilus is not a world independent of him that he created. It's another Mitzvah the Eibusha Tashaf. Atzilus says that the Getlach Keiches of Chachma, Chesed, Buddha, the Feres, the Eibusha's Keiches are Nizgale, the Gile of the Eibusha's Keiches. That's Atzilus. So Atzilus is Elokus. It's the Gile of the Eibusha's Keiches. Mashiach in Bia, Bri Atzilus is a Havas of Vel, Mitzvah, Eilumis. So there's Nishnevish. So it's Chaim State, Pchinas Eved is Nalam de Bia. I mean, every Nisham, I'll tell you sometimes, every Nisham is Moshe Shechach Milad Atzilus. But the Poil, the same I'll tell you is the Moshe. Same way we know that the Seder Advarim from till the Vlad, when the Vlad starts out the Tipas, the Rekuda, the Tipas Me'achad, then it has to go through a whole process until it's Nislavish and it becomes the whole Metzias of the Ramach Evrim Shasagidim, the whole Metzias of it. And there's Lamad. The Shadish of all Neshamas are the Choch Milad Atzilus. But in order for the Neshama to be Nislavish and the Guf of Neshama, it goes through a whole long process. And it goes to such a process till most Neshamas get a form of Bia. Never Shuach Neshama is not Salaichlish in the Neshama, it's Mahus, the way it is in Choch Milad Atzilus. That you have Neshamas of the Chayes Reish B'nai Yisrael. The average Neshamas that goes through a whole Seder Shtalshamas and a whole process until the Neshama is Mistayir and the Tzir of Bia. It's Neshamas that they are Mekabel the Tzir of Bia, that's the Rever Shuach Neshama the Bia. The Neshama that goes through a whole process, and now it's in the form of a Nivra. It has the Tzir of a Nivra, has the image of a Nivra, so then that's P'chinas Eved. A Nivra is a Metzias outside of Elikos. It's not his extension. It's the Eibusha created Bia. A Neshama, which is in the form of a Nivra, in the form of Bia, he could devote himself to the Eibusha. But that's a P'chin of an Eved. An Eved is a stranger, not the Odin, not for the family of the Odin. He doesn't come from the Odin. A stranger, which is Mevatl himself to the Odin. Neshama which are P'chinas Avadim are, a Never Shuach Neshama, P'chinas Bia, means that the Neshama, which is in the Tzir of a Nivra, outside of Elikos, and he is Mevatl, so he is Mismash with Elikos. That's the P'chinas Eved, that's what he says. The Eved had P'chinas Naran de Bia. Was Ben Misha Zeichel and Rebbe Shuach Neshama Atzilus. Means a tzaddik that by him his neshama never came into the form of a nivra. His neshama was never mishtalshel to the tzir of a nivra to Bia. By him b'faran neshama Atzilus. That means by him the sheirish and neshama the way it is in Atzilus. So he's a Ben. Why is he a Ben? Punkta Zevi a Ben. Is Mimchus Ha'av is not a stranger. He's not a stranger from him. He's the same host as the father. So the Rebbe Shuach Neshama Atzilus is Mimchus Ha'av. So he b'chinas Ben HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the Pasha Sabir that he brings from inside. Okay. Then he adds another prat. But I'm the Pasha Sabir that Kufiraf and Bez Isa. He says another Dort Mishdeb is Landish. Dort Mishdeb is Zimri Yadli Banash Kuchibrich Beira Klal. When a person knows has idea Klovis no Lukus, he knows that there's an Eibush there. Klos the Gedeas about Lukus. So Kedein Ikri Evet. That's what I'm going to find Evet. He has idea Klos no Lukus. The Zimna the Yadli Eirach Prat. It's more Pratim no Lukus. Kedin ikri ben rechimedele. He's called the Balipter son. Keben the Chodesh b'knisa v'choraz in the base. The parsha that Ram Hemna is the same way a son, a Eved, as Ish Zar, it's a stranger, so you don't let him into all the secrets. You don't tell him all the Bahalt and the status from their tata. You don't trust the Ish Zar, Sultan. A Ben that he's a Ben Chaviv, the father that sailed him all his anesthetics, and he knows all his father's eitzes. He's Hamish b'knisa v'choraz in the base. So the pashas of the Ram is not explaining that the difference between Aved and Ben is a mahus. He's more a neshama which able to advise cure of kaviyachal and chiba to them, chiba to the extent of the chiba to Ben. So that's a yid which knows the lukus beirach prat. And a neshama which doesn't have that level of chiba, that's yadalei lukus beirach klal. But the Tzemach Tzedek, the Rishon Pirish and Mak beirach chama, he's mavayir that this is the same thing as what the Yitzchayim says. Mishesh the neshama that silis hu yadach al knisa v'laz the base. So it's from Kabbalah. But כשיש רק an Bia, יד לו קשור רק בערך כלל. He's a chalik that klal and prat is not just in kamos. Klal is someone that knows only general, and prat he knows more. It's a different type of idea. Era klal means that you know the Eibush from outside, not from inside. You know the Eibush from apiseichu. That's neshama de Bia. You're not from the same horse of Elikus. You're a nivra. A nivra. So then you respect him with zayin seichel. So vifla mensch can verstehen Elikus. That's how an outsider knows the Lukus. Mashiach P'chinas Ben is that Ba'em like the Inin Kumeshu. A Lukus Kumeshu is Meir Ba'em. That's Keben the Chavish. He dreis sich around the Gnisi the base. He's bifnim. He's in the Father's house. He knows all the secrets of the Father. Why does he know all the secrets? He's innovating. That's what he brings from the Yeracham. So it's the same Nekoda as what he says in Mitzchai. The difference between Eved and Ben is Eved is that he's a different Mahus than Elokus. And the Mele is Yidi in Elokus is the way someone from outside knows Elokus. That he says Seidi al Piseichel. Yes, behind this was up like a Piseichel. Mashik and Sham is that Tzilis. What's the Chavish begins the base that he knows all this. Why does he know all this? Because by him like Elokus Kameshu. Because he's Mahus. He's Mahus Elokus. Yeah, the Zel ha'eskin beKabbalah chulu. Saying it's good to know this. I'm saying this is when the word Mekubalim, you say the word Mekubalim. But the way it touches over here, Esik Mekubalim means there's one in a Yid learn Torah, Yid is Esik in Idiyas Elikus. How is the Elikus Kameshu is not Meir by him? He's a Nivra. He is no Erech for him that Elikus Kameshu is Meir. So Ervei is Vifo Ekem Verstehen. He uses this Seichel and tries to understand. How much is able to understand? How much is able to understand the Nivra? Whatever is able to understand. Kabbalah means that the Inyan Kameshu is Meir by him. That's Kabbalah. He's Mekabel the Inyan Kameshu. Not that the ideas are according to how much his seichel is able to reach. The Indian Kameshu is neskabel by him. So that's because the Chatchile, his mayach and his chacham seichel is seichel eliki. So if someone that your seichel is nirgash, that it's the chachma that tzilis that's nimshach lamata, it's the avish's chachma the way it's nimshach in a neshama, then that type of seichel is a keli that the emes Kameshu should be made. That's Kabbalah. If it's seichel, it's not Kabbalah already. If it's a limud that you're learning it, I'm saying if you're reading words, really it's chaim, it's tamazay kriyas eisi, so that's not what he's saying here. Ismael is someone that is shaychas to Kabbalah, so an under. So that's nesham is that's nesham is that's this. Yodil the kuchibuch rak beiraklal. Yeah, that's a different. That's there's darkness in Ismael. That's a muslim that a yid that's a kid that a lukus kameshu should be merbin higher than seichel. So the Giluy that the Mekubal has, a kind of such uptight in the Seichel, that it's hard, it's the Indian Kameshu who higher than Asagas and Avraham is made by. It's a different type of video. Good. So, saying you say the blade because the Mekubal, as I said, Mekubal, not about the Bible somewhere. Yodel Kashmir I bear a couple days, the Rishus the Chapshi Begnizuch. Nimsa the bottom in the Sham is that Tzilis, Vavodim, the Sham is the Bian. Sag upon was kommt da raus von Seifen der Chaim von drei Männern that Bonim is on a Sham. What's the Atzilus? Yeah, Atzilus is not something outside of Elikus. Atzilus is that the Eibishter's Keiches are this God. So it's not a Metzias Mibechutz Elikus. That's the Sham is the Ma. Why the Sham is that's Pchinas Ben that they're Mimhus Elikus, and the Sham is the why Avodim is a stranger outside of Elikus. That's the Sham is the Bian. The Sham is that come into the form of a Nivra. That's the Pashat. So da hebt on a reden a tifere beer from the Hindi Yadua. He's starting a tifere beer in the India. You put a video, but I'm saying I said something about the Bible, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm saying. It makes it better, but I'm saying you have to cut it out if you feel that. Good. If some might get offended, yeah, we know that it's not going to happen. Good. When you do the neshama is the b'chanas banim v'avodim. I'm saying for other things. If I say something that's not appropriate, you'll have to take it out. That's what I'm saying. When you do the neshama is the b'chanas banim v'avodim. Oh, so it does talk to that tifle beer. This thing banim v'avodim. This is all. The emphasis is akdama to call Hemshech, but I'm not going to skip. We'll go through it. When you do the neshama is the b'chanas banim v'avodim. Shnei and Hemshech and Chunas and the emesis till now the Havana was between Ben and Eved is that Ben is the neshama and neshama which is Pchinas Atzilus is Ben means a neshama that Ba'em never became a tzir of a nivra. So geblim the mahos the way it is it's nirgish the neshama that it's a get b'chazar that it's a mahos alaki that's Atzilus is Pchinas Ben on a neshama which is the form of a nivra that's Pchinas Eved. So now the Rebbe Shab says, but you do that all neshama, side banim, side pchinas avadim, shnei nimshach pchinas yichud zun datzilus. So both neshamas are nimshach from the yichud of zav v'dukva datzilus. We'll see soon. But both are nimshach from zav v'dukva datzilus. Oh, no, point number one. Now, where do we see that all neshamas are nimshach from datzilus? Ki b'derech klal, esavas neshamas pchinas datzilus dafke. This, I'm saying this in some Kabbalah, just it was negay as one prat. In order for the to be the mitzvah of neshama, the stand for pchinas datzilus dafke. Good. Pchinas zav and nukva de bria ein bekeichem havas neshama skim Allah. Mish gas is time shar seder rabia. Point number one. So point number one is important to remember. All neshamas, Sai Ben, Sai Eved, the makar of all neshamas is from the yichud of Zah and Malchus Atzilus. We'll see soon why this is. Okay, this we knew before also, but we'll see what he wants to build with this. We were standing before it is Avada. All the neshamas are mushish and Atzilus, but certain neshamas, when they go through the process, pull the nimshach and go for nefesh ba'amis, so they come into the form of a nivra. Like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, I'm saying not all. Why do you have to come on to the Vegas of Mini Chacham? But the Chacham is Meir der Makir and Chacham Millah. That's it. Mashik and other neshamas, they go through the whole Seder Shtalshlus. They go through Abiyah, like that says in Perek in Tanya, Bri Yitzir Asiyah, and then they identify themselves with the Tzir of Abiyah, and it's their misrachik from the Sherish. Okay, but what? So Mela, what's saying before is not a spirit. He's saying well, he's building up something. So it's to do it that all neshamas come from the Yichud of Avaduk of that sense. That's the point number one. Amnu Borsham Beitz Chaim, the Yichud of the Nukul Hid Neshamas Vibriya. Okay, Shamas that says Lama Shein another Yichud Ava. Okay, at this point says there's Yichud Ava. Bechlal, that's it's in the Kabbalah, which is what it's trying to get to explain this in the Hemshech over here. But the Yichud of Abba ve'Ima wird von a Yichud von zwei Inyanim wird the Hilodas Neshamas. So Yichud Abba ve'Ima wird Neshamas. It means Mechadik. Misad Yichud Ava is Mishav Neshamas which stay in Atzilus. Mashayik from Yichud Zun are Nimshach Neshamas which are Nimshach and Velt. A Neshamas that we're dealing with here is not a Neshamas that is black and Atzilus. It's a Neshamas which is Mislabish in a Guf. But even the way the Neshamas in a Guf, it's Nirgash that it's P'chinas Atzilus which is Nimshach in a Guf. But we're dealing with Neshamas which are Nimshach and Velt. We'll see later why this is Nigeh. Neshamas says Ma'am Shein Yedam Yichud Ava, Yikam Achim V'Reim Uzah. Aval Neshamas Shein Yedam Yichud Zun, Hu Shein Yedam B'Biyah. So assign Neshamas the Biyah. What does he want to prove from here? That sign Neshamas the Ev, sign Neshamas the Ma, and the sign Neshamas of Ben. They're all Neshamas Misat Echad are Mushish in Atzilus, and Leidach they're Nimshach and Velt. We're dealing with a Neshama which is Mislabish and a Guf in Elam Hazir. And Neshama which stays the Pesach is one Atzilus that comes from Yichud Avot, the Shtamtish and Yichud Zon. All Neshamas which are Mislabish and a Guf, so all Neshamas come from Yichud Zon and Nukva, and they're Mislabish and a Guf. We'll see later the Hezbollah. That's the Nukva that it says. Oh, so now we come Gesh with a state that Biur that there's a difference between Eved and Ben for a different reason. We come Gesh with a state Pchinas. Pchinas Bonim Shenishamas that Tzilus from the Zon Shenishamas the Biyah. What he wants to say to what he wants to say is till now we learned that Shenishamas the Ben and Shenishamas that Tzilus is a Ben. If you was Meir of the course, the Mokker and Atzilus is Meir, then you're Neshama Pchinas Ben. And a Neshama which is not Meir Begali, it's Shedish and Atzilus. But it's mislabish the tzir of biyah, so that's the neshama b'chinas ever. Here he wants to say that even neshamas that by them is meir the makar and atzilis is also there's neshamas the man neshamas there's neshamas the evid and neshamas the ben. Basically, there's two inyanim in elikus melchatchila. There's one inyan in elikus which is that inyan the neshama there's the inyan of zah which mitzad zah the neshamas was shtamen from zah. There's another Indian elikus which is called Malchus, and Neshamas which are Mushish Malchus, their Indian is Biyah. That's what he wants to say. The chilik is not that it's that if you're Bayuz Meir Atzilus you're Pchinas Ben. It's that chilik two and Atzilus. So Neshama that has his Indian is to be Megad the Pchin of Zod Atzilus is Pchinas Ben. Is one Pchina. Mashayik the Neshamas their Indian is to be Megad the Pchin of Malchus Atzilus. That Neshama is called Pchinas is Pchinas Ben. So it's a new beer. That's what he wants to bring up. We'll see that it is going to be connected. But it's the religious look. He do that all neshamas are nimshach mizun datzilus, and they're all nimshach in velt. Umikol mekimesh mizay. What's the same? Mikol mekimesh mizay beis pchinas. Nish later beer versus akfrir. That the reason why neshamas the biyah is called eved is because it's nisalim the sherish natzilus. Even neshamas the bedem is mer begoli their makar natzilus. After became mikol mekim there's two pchinas. That's what he wants to say. Even the pchina of neshamas. That even the way they're nimshach in biyah, it's nirgash the makar natzilis. Is all the shamas which come from Zun are nimshach in biyah, are nimshach in vel. But I think regular shamas is the shamas that we're dealing with, and shamas tamas are irregular people. It's b'chal na meir the makar natzilis. Even the shamas for them is meir the makar natzilis. Mikol mekim yesh mizay beis pchinas. That's what it's like. So what is it? So pchinas banish in shamas natzilis. Pchinas banish in shamas he's going to explain. V'hainu avish in shamas t'chul and shamas the nukva. So that's the difference in the shamas of Zah and the shamas of Malchus. Zah is t'chule. The alderech, the lead, the begashmis, comes from a zachar and the keva. As alderech zeh, yichud zun is male than the shamas. So Zah is the zachar, and Malchus is the nukva. It's all pchinas in the lukus. Malchus also pchinas in the lukus. So the shamas that so what's the shamas of biyah and the shamas abad and the shamas of pchinas ben? The chilik is not nivraim lukus. Which in the lukus they're megal they come from. If you come from the P'china of Zah, P'china Zacher, so then your Neshama is the Ma, and Masha'ink, the Neshama is the P'china Ben, Masha'ink, the Neshama of Nukve, that's Malchus. Let's get to the Malchus. Here Neshama is the Ma, the Ikram of P'china Zah, and Neshama is the Mad, or Dazak. Neshama is the Mad, Ikram of P'china Zah, Neshama is the Mad, Ikram of P'china Malchus. That's the Tuba. So let's get to the Malchus. So he says, Ima Yisrael, Neshama is called P'china Zah, the all the Shabbos come from Yuchot Zav Vinuk. Here, this is what we do. All the Shabbos come from Yuchot Zav Vinuk. And all the Shabbos are Kol and Zav. When we call the Shabbos, you can come and Kadisha. It means they're Nimshech from Zav. Mikpchina Zav, that's solution. If you do it, making Kol and Shabbos, Nichlol, Mikpchinas Machas, Mikpchinas Ibra, Mishach Madia Machas. That comes here. Yeshem say Beis Badregis. Sheyesh Shabbos Ikra, Mikpchinas Zav. That comes here. Mikpchinas Ibra, Mishach Machas. Yeah, there you have in the Mashal, you have a father and a mother. Some children are more devoted to the father, some are more devoted to the mother. So there is in the Nimshal, all the Neshamas come from Yuchot Zav and Nukva, Zichot Zon. But some Neshamas Ikram is Zah, and some Neshamas Ikram is Malchus. I mean, some Neshamas Ikram Yanam is that there should be Megala, the Indian of Zah Datzilis. Either also Nimshach and Malchus, because in order for Zah Datzilis to be Nizgal in Velt, it has to go through Malchus. But it only goes through Malchus with Derech Maiver. But they don't identify themselves as Malchus. No, it says they get Hashpah with their Chayim, with their Slapshus. Someone writes a Seichel Nois, and someone's writing down a Svara. So even though you have to use your hands, but the Yad is not Mitzamsim the Svara. You're not going to say that when you're writing down the Svara through the Klei Yad to write the Svara down on the paper, so the Svara now is going to become more Megushim according to the Klei Yad. The Yad is just used as a tool to bring the Svara down Al-Aksab. So Hashpah with their Chayim. So the Slapshus means that the Indian is Mitzamsim according to the levush that you're being megaled. So you have every neshama has to go through machas because the neshama is dimshach in felt in guf. In the neshama it has to go through the levush of machas, but not b'derech eslapshus, b'derech ma'ivir. So some neshamas ikrin yanim is and they only go through machas b'derech ma'ivir, and some neshamas ikrin yanim is machas. And the reason why they have zah is for a different reason. They didn't have a different beer, but that's the Hachodesh. So this is already a new beer. Different neshamas the man, neshamas the ba. Not the Indian. Till now the chilik is Nivro or Lakus. Here, it's why Taka some of the Vrayim are more Nislavish and Velt, and some of the Vrayim bleiben Atzilis, because there's two in Yanim and Atzilis Gufa. If you're in Zad Atzilis, that's the Shamas the Ma, and if you're in Machos Atzilis, you're in Bia. That's like that. Kom ki Yeshem ze Beis Madregis. Yeshem Shamas Ikram B'chinas Zad Afke. Ve'enim es Akven Kol Gab B'chinas Ibur B'Machos. And he brings a duk Menishas Meisha is the Shamas the Ma. The Shamas the B'chinas V'nachnu Mo. The Shamas the Ma is Zah, because Zah, it says that Zah is Adam is Ma, different beauty than the Shamas that Zah is P'chinas Ma. We'll see later. So Nishmas Moshe was only P'chinas Ibur B'Gashmi is only Zayin Chadosh. What does that mean? I mean, he was only in the Nukva for the shortest amount of time. It means he wasn't this Achad with Malchus. His Indian was Zah. V'hainish the Nishtana was a Be'etzim Muhusish for Nishtana. Yeah, Zayin Muhusik given Zah Datzilis, the Sham the Ma. He was a Malchus only with Derech Maiver in order for him to be established in the Guf. But it's not that his Mahus became the Mahus of Malchus. Nishtana is the Betzim Mahus. The Yesh Rikin of P'chinas Malchus, who must act from Yesir P'chinas Ibur, K'mei Yoshi B'Shayi B'Ibur Yud Beis Chodosh, Eliyahu Navi. Because Eliyahu Navi in Yonei was the Shamas the Bam. So Eliyahu Navi was also Yid was the Shamas Datzilis. He wasn't the Shamas Bia. But Eliyahu Navi's Inyan was Malchus, not Zah. He's speaking of the higher degrees. Shamas the Ikram B'chinas does it already, and this now is connected the Pirish that he says here to what he said before. It says the Shamas the Ikram B'chinas that's B'chinas Shamas Datzilis. The Gambi the das Lamata in B'chinas Datzilis. This Kedua the Zah who Saf Elam Ein Saf. This already is saying it a certain beer already. Should we discuss this? Das Shnainin, Mazalang and Nachainin. We should do Elam Halt. We'll go a little weiter. So maybe we'll go a little weiter. What they start saying here is, what's the difference between, I'm going to say about pep first, then we'll see it inside. What's the difference between, what he's saying, what did he say before? All the shamas which come from Yichud Zon, their market is Atzilis, and their nimsa in Bia. The shamas which stay in Atzilis, that comes from Yichud Avah. But the mechuvan of the Yichud Zon is the head of the shamas the Bia, in Velt. But in Velt Kufi, you have Iker Zon, Iker Malchus. So the Kudah is like this. The Kudah is that there is, what does it mean that it's certain Neshamas Ikram is Zah and certain Neshamas Ikram is Malchus? You say that the in the mashal, we're speaking about what's the yachas of Elam is the gabi the b'china of Zod Atzilus, the gabi b'china of Zod V'Lukus, and what's the gather Elam the gabi Malchus. See in the mashal Nefesh Adam, for example, the difference between Malchus and Zod usually is dibur amidus. You say a person in Chveis had avad to someone else, or he's afraid of someone else. So in Meichin, it's the way the person is b'cham mufshit from shaychus to zulas. So this says in order for a person to understand and to Chveis verstehen gut, he has to be ba'avdala. When you want to think and figure something out, it can't be when you're in a state of regesh towards the inyan or a state of regesh towards someone else. You have to be calm. You have to be collective. You have to be in your own, be able to be in your own little element in order to understand. So meichin is avdala. So there is a chinas avad atzilis. Red b'chanish involved. Mered is mered and neshamas involved. That's the way the kus is in his own element kaviyot. Zay is already midas. Midas is a person is hatlibat state. So that's already is in a state of having a regesh. A state of kiruv. He has a emotion towards someone else. But in midas, what's the inyan of midas? Of let's say ava. Ava is what's this person's regesh towards the other person. Ava is not about the other person. It's what's Reuven's feeling towards Shimon. That's the midas. I say the contrast. When you speak about dibur is not a dibur. The whole matorah, the keichat dibur is a person without speaking because has everything b'shleimus. He can have midas b'shleimus. He has alf hata b'shleimus. What's the only chasam without speaking? That the other person doesn't know what he feels. He doesn't know what he's thinking. So what's the chesarn in Reuven if Shimon doesn't know what he's thinking? There's no chesarn. The whole matorah of dibur is as Shimon's all this of us. So the whole matorah of Shimon is only for the zulas. So dibur, so there is midas. There's also you can't be mitzayer midas that is. You can't be mitzayer ava if there's no something that you're nimshach to. You can't deal with yir if you're not dealing with something outside of the person that is being nimshach. But in ava, it's not neged the zulas itself. It's what's Reuven's relationship to the zulas. What's his attitude towards the zulas? He likes him, doesn't like him. What is the yachas of Reuven to Shimon? Mashiach in dibur, it's not about my yachas to Reuven to Shimon. It's in order for Shimon to know the information. It's about Shimon himself, not about the Reuven's yachas to Shimon. So there is I'm saying when you speak when you get to Zod Machos that Tzilis, but that what's the Hemshech creates a world. What's the point of creating the world? What's Vum? What's Zuchman? What's the purpose? The b'china of Zod, the whole idea of creating a world is not that there should be a world. We want a heaven and an earth place. There's no inyan of heaven and earth. The Eibishter's mindless, the Eibishter's bligvul should be in his gala. How is the Eibishter's bligvul in his gala? That the Eibishter is so unlimited that if he wants, he can create a world. The Eibishter is so bligvul that if he wants, it nimshach ta'avah. So in that case, the inyan of Ha'olam, the reason why there's Havas Eila is not for the sake of creating a world. There should be a Shemesh or a Rakia or a Yereah. The point is that the Eibishter's keiches kaviyachol should be in his gala. That's what said the b'china of Zod. Al derech, like I say, when you get to Midas, Zod is the b'china of Midas. Al derech, by a person. In Midas, there's already a yachas to someone else. It's not the person is say removed from a shaykhas to another, like someone else, avet to another, yirat to another. But it's all what's the person's attitude towards another. What's his yachas towards another? Al derech is another course. You have mitzad b'chinas avodah l'kos. The Eibush is b'chal higher than creating a world. Mitzad zah, we are relating. The Eibush relates himself and his mahava velt and his nimshach velt. But what's the purpose? For the sake of there should be a world, or in order to say the elam is eichet tinsa, the Eibush's in yanim should be in his gal. That's mitzad zah. Sheikim said b'chinas malchus. Malchus is that Lukus has this after in do what they can say when they get to the person. That a person has a kayach adibur. A person has a kayach not for the sake of expressing himself, to make space for someone else. A person has a kayach as he has a kayach to a dibur a yener zal herem v'sachreid, not for the sake of him having an act towards someone else. The inyan of dibur is that the person has a kayach to make space for someone else. There's even Lukus Malchus is a makir b'sher sheshbin avran. So this is an Indian ikri also when they get to what type that's the hip on. You can see just the first few lashonis. Sham is ikrim b'chinas zah. Well, we do just 2 lines because the Sham is ikrim b'chinas zah. Him b'chinas Sham is datzilis. The gam b'ridas and lamati him b'chinas datzilis. Kedua the zah who saf elu ein saf.